Welcome to episode 2 of Innovating the Industrial World. I'm your host, John King, CEO of Cross Company, and we're here to talk about tank equipment surveys. This is where Innovating the Industrial World is where we talk about improving quality, raising efficiency, and lowering risk. I'm here with my good friend Junior Little, our service manager for our Process Solutions Group. Junior, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
I'm Junior Little. I'm the service manager at the Process Solutions Group. I've been here about 3 years, matter of fact, as of September 30th. And so we work out of Knoxville. We do a lot of the tank vent repairs, manual valve repairs, all sorts of blanket gas regulator repairs, and we do the top surveys also.
And you have just a little bit of experience doing this, right? So tell us what you were doing before that.
Well, I worked at Eastman Chemical for 29 years. I was over their valve shop for the last 12 years there. And we managed all of their relief valves and low pressure vents, approximately about 9,000 relief valves and 4,000 vents.
So you know a thing or two about tanks.
Just a little bit, maybe.
That's awesome. Okay, so when our customers are asking us to do a tank equipment survey, what exactly do they mean? What is it? What are they looking for?
Well, basically, they want to look at all of the equipment around the tank. They want to look at their safety protection, which would be their low pressure vents and their safety relief valves. And then while there, we also look at their manual valves, their control valve repairs, their gauges, all the equipment that's associated with making the tank operable.
And so why do they need this? Like, they're asking for us to do this survey, and why is that? What do they get out of it?
Well, a lot of times the sites, they really don't know what they have. A lot of the surveys we've done so far is they really don't know the equipment that's associated with the tank. They don't know that it is obsolete or if it's got long lead times to get in, so that if they do run into a problem, they're not waiting on equipment to arrive with the tank out of operation.
Okay, Junior, when you're going out on site and you're doing an equipment survey, tell us, for the listeners who haven't been walking around a chemical plant for 30 years, what kind of equipment are you actually looking for? What are we put in the report?
We put all of the low pressure vents, which is on top of your tank, which would help with the pump in and pump out of your tank. So when you're loading a tank, a low pressure vent is a tank protected device that when you pump in, it relieves the excess pressure. And when you're pumping out of the tank, it would relieve the vacuum pressure. This in turn would prevent the implode or explode of the tank. We also look at your safety relief valves if they're in that system also. So that would be any valve over 15 PSI. That is considered a safety or code valve. We would look at also all your manual valves and control valves. And all these devices can be repaired at our shop, or we can get them repaired for the customer. We manage that for them.
So as a low pressure vent is sitting on top of the tank and you're filling it up and it's allowing the air to come out of the tank. And then it also allows, if something, heaven forbid, something bad happens or pressure really builds up, it lets that blow, correct?
That is correct. And then those devices are set at a certain set pressure. That's the reason we document that. That would protect the tank based on the capacity of the tank and what the pressure rating is of that tank. All those devices are set in accordance with a calculation of the thickness of that wall of that tank. But we do not inspect the tank at these inspections. We basically look at all the equipment as associated with it.
So we're not sitting there doing an integrity test of the tank or
No.
anything like that. But we're looking at it's really important that all of this ancillary equipment that's attached to this thing is working right.
That is correct, because there is a lot of that. I've been going to some facilities, and once you get in those facilities, you will find out that they have had this happen. They've either imploded a tank or they've exploded a tank at one point or time, and then most of those times the device has never been inspected or is not functioning as it should.
Because had it been functioning, that wouldn't have happened.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
90% of the time that device is there to protect that tank. Of course, there is certain instances when the control systems fail and that device has not been sized the way it should have been.
So when you're looking at control valves and the manual valves, do they just work or don't work, or what are you looking for to make sure?
Actually, we'll look at those to see if they're obsolete, to see if they're leaking, packing leaks or actuator leaks. On a control valve, there's many different devices that are with that. They have positioners, they have actuators, they have packing. So we actually look and document if we see any of those failures out in the field while we're there also.
Because if I'm a maintenance manager or a process engineer, then these are serviceable. These are something I'm going to want to continue to repair and I can continue to use, but I may need to get new seals and that kind of thing.
That's correct. Yeah, all of these are repairable. Most of the sites will have some type of spare that they can put in, and with that spare, that allows us to take it back to our shop. We'll do a total disassembly of that device. We'll document the findings for those devices. Also, we send the pictures of that device to show what we found, and then we'll also send the quote back to repair those to the customer.
That makes sense. Okay, so again, I'm the process engineer and maintenance manager. I've got this incredibly detailed report. It's got pictures, it's got conditions, it's got different levels of obsolescence, and then I have a priority list of what to do next. But now what happens? What do I do?
Well, we will meet. Basically, we meet with the site. We'll review our findings with them. We'll let them look and see if they have any questions of what we've documented for them. A lot of the documents that we provide to them is basically a list of the devices where they had no information, and then what they can have that information if they're ever audited by the state, and they can show that they have that. Then we'll review that list and set a priority list of how we're going to address some of the action items. Like you said, just because the device may be obsolete isn't an indication that it needs to be replaced. But if it's obsolete and it was to fail, we need to make sure we have parts. Or if you get a spare, then you can send the device to us and see if we can repair it, and that way you can have a spare.
So if I have this list and I can say, okay, can I call Junior and say, hey, all these things I need to be replaced. These things I need you to service these things. So what do I do? How do I get that done?
Yeah, you can call me. We will set through and we'll get you a priority, and then we'll see how we want to approach getting these sent into our shop. Of course, we will not do all of them at one time. That could be rather expensive, but we will schedule those for you, and then we will get the quotes sent back to you. When they come in, we get an immediate to go on to get those fixed, and then we'll return them, and then we'll just keep doing that until we address all the action items on that list.
So what can I expect in terms of turnaround time? So let's say that I put these valves on a pallet and send them to you. How long will it take before I get those back, and what will I get when I get those back?
We try to plan ahead. Of course, we want to make sure we have parts to repair your device. So if we have the parts there, we try to have those in 7 to 10 days returned back to you.
Oh, that's great.
If you get it a priority of that and you need it quicker than that, of course, we will try to put you in front of that line to get that equipment back to you quicker. But we try to get no more than 7 to 10 days based on when the device arrives in our shop.
Okay, Junior. So when I put all these valves on the pallet and send them to you, and you mentioned we can get them back in 7 to 10 days or so. Is there anything that I shouldn't be sending to you? Because you only work on certain manufacturers, or what?
No, John, we've got great relationships with other manufacturers. All of our other manufacturers are readily available to get parts. We have that communication with them. Actually, other manufacturers come to us for parts also. So it's just a good relationship that we have where we built with those guys since we've been in the repair business.
So are we stocking parts for these valves and these low pressure vents?
We stock all the growth parts for our vents that we repair for growth, and we order most of the parts for other manufacturers, the Protective Seals, the Varex, the Inardos.
So we can get whatever we need.
We can get whatever we need. We can either expedite or try. If we know it's coming beforehand, we have the parts on site, and that also reduces the downtime for us to be able to repair the device.
That's fantastic. So I don't have to worry about who the distributor is or whatever. I can just send it to you and you can handle it.
That's correct. We take care of all the communication with the other vendors. We get all those parts ordered, and on site we try to give you a lead time when those parts will be available for the repair.
That's fantastic. Okay, so again, I'm a process engineer and a maintenance manager running a plant, and I've got all these tanks that I may have some old equipment, I may have some new equipment. I'm just running like crazy, so I can call you to get that done and come in and give me that whole report and help me out to fix those things.
Yeah, we do that quite often. Matter of fact, we actually go back on site. We will actually go in and review the report in person. We can do it via just a meeting online and set that priority. A lot of times we even go in and give some training on some of the inspection processes that the site can do in the field also.
Oh,
so that they can
so you
go
can
out.
teach me to do it on my own too.
We can do that. We can give that inspection training to you and let you get that knowledge. Basically, the repairs and the testing we try to do at our shop, since we do have a certified test down in our shop, but we can give that in-field inspection to let you know something about it before you pull it.
That's fantastic. Well, now I know exactly what I need to do and what I can expect when I get finished. So I think that works out great. So one of the things that we'd love to know is, why would they ask us to do that? Why not do this themselves?
Well, what I've seen so far is that on these, the site really doesn't have all the resources to get this done because you're out in the field a lot, looking at a lot of equipment. You're documenting a lot of information where the site may not have the expertise to know what is obsolete, what they need to be looking at, what information they need to gather, and what path forward they need to take to get the right equipment on site that they would be using to prevent outages.
That's great. So tell me what they get from us. So if they, I call up and I say, hey, I'm a process engineer, and I say, hey, Junior, I need you to come take a look at my tanks. What am I going to get back from you?
Well, on our surveys, we actually go out and we actually get all the model numbers, the serial numbers, which are really critical when they go to get spare parts or if they need to order a new one, because the model numbers and serial numbers will give you the design build of that device. We log that in with set pressures, and then we also give them a sheet that shows recommended actions. And what I mean by recommended actions is the device obsolete? Do you need a spare? Or is the device one of those that is installed incorrectly, or we see other insufficient evidence of maybe the device will not operate as it should be intended to do?
So we're just trying to make sure that we know we're not trying to sell them anything, right? We're just trying to let them know what they got.
No, we're not. Basically, we go in and we don't want to sell anything. We want to sell our service. Basically, we want to have our service out there to give them the information they need. And that way they can make a good decision on what the path forward is they want to take, whether they want an action item list off of our survey. And that way they can prioritize what they need to address right up front.
Yeah, because I've seen, when I talk to a lot of maintenance managers and process engineers, this is kind of out of sight, out of mind. They're running like crazy. The tanks are running, they're making product, they're dispensing it, they're shipping it, and then something happens. And so then that's when it becomes really, really clear that we need to do some work. So this is all about getting that report so we know what potential's out there, and I can plan on that.
Yes, we'll give them an action item list of what we have as a high priority. What we mean as high priority is that it will not operate to protect their tanks. And then we let them categorize how they want to go about the objective way to get that list achieved, to where they can get the necessary equipment on site. We're able to give them that information. We also can, if the device is obsolete, we can give them sizing information to where we can provide the replacements for them.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll find out that they've got things that they're great, right? There's sort of various degrees of obsolescence, right? So sometimes you'll have something working great, they still make it, still get parts for it, and then sometimes they won't make it and won't make the equipment anymore, but you can still get parts for it. And then sometimes you can't get parts for it anymore at all. That something bad happens, you're kind of dead in the water.
That's right, John. Basically, we give them two opportunities. They can, we can repair it for them also. So we have a guard center at our shop in Knoxville, so we can actually repair the device. So we can give them a spare, and by purchasing one spare, they can send us the old device. We can repair it. So they actually get a 2-for-1 in a sense, to where we can repair the device, give them a new one, and then they can just keep switching it to other tanks and use it as a spare. So
I get my report. I've got pictures, I've got reports on the condition, I've got everything that I need to know, so I can prioritize what I'm going to do from there. And I think that's kind of how that works, so that I have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I get to choose how I'm going to implement that plan, but now I've got a plan.
That's correct.
What are some of the things that you've seen out there? Some of the, sort of worst cases, some things that you've been out in the field and seen that you felt like, oh my gosh, this really needs some attention.
A couple of sites that I went to, I had actually seen a safety relief valve that was plugged, to where they had actually put a pipe plug in it because it was leaking. So that device would not function as intended.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. There's no protection.
I think I'm protected, but I'm not.
Exactly. And then we've seen a lot of misapplication on installation, where devices have been installed horizontally. Maybe they was installed incorrectly, to where that the reduced inlet and reduced outlet, where it would not function as it should have intended if it needed to function.
Have you ever come across situations where you've seen that customers were using too much of a gas, or using too much of their ingredients, or anything, like something was leaking or something, where we were helping saving them some money in that regard?
Well, a lot of times on these devices, the device itself is designed for a certain percentage of pressure. And if they run over that pressure, it is always going to be lifting and it's always going to be open. And so they're going to lose a lot of their nitrogen blanketing systems. So a lot of times if we are in the field and we hear this system overpressuring, we can give them that information right up front and look at the process controls on the internals control systems and see if they can adjust those. Also, we can also run sizing for them to see if they're able to increase the sizing, and maybe we can reset their device where it's operable better for them.
That's fantastic. So they get an awful lot of value out of it. This is a great way for them, our customers, to help lower risk and improve efficiency and hire us to do something that they don't have time to do.
Yeah, basically we take that and we will keep all that information for them. And we've actually had customers come back to us and then do this in phases to where they want to take the emergency items first, and they'll categorize these as top priority, 2 priorities, and 3 priorities. And it may take a year, but we actually work with them to set the objective to get those done when they need to be done and get the equipment on order to where they have them on site when they're able to do that during the outages.
That's fantastic. Well, it sounds like they get an awful lot out of it and get that 30 years of experience.
We hope so. Yes, we do. It's been interesting, to say the least. I came from a company that was really, really embedded in doing the proper thing for their safety relief valves and protecting their equipment. And some of the things I've seen has been an eye-opening event for me. It's been fun working with the other factories and companies to hopefully increase their safety awareness. And we've actually been able to lower some insurance rates for some companies, but some of the implementations that we put in for them.
That's a lot of value. Yeah, that really that helps a ton to help our plant run more efficiently and help reduce that risk. Like you said, being able to lower insurance premiums and that kind of thing. That's a big deal. That's more than just wanting to make sure that the equipment's right, but it's also helps in terms of operating costs.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, that concludes this episode of Innovating the Industrial World about tank equipment surveys. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to www.crossco.com for all kinds of resources and information. Drop any questions or comments or topics in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much.